Hey everybody, I am glad you could be here to join me. We're going to have some fun today. We're going to talk about one of my favorite things in the summertime, and that is fresh fruit and vegetables out of your garden. So, it is the 16th of May in Canada, so most people, well, it's the 16th of May in most of the world, I suppose, but in Canada, most people cannot even plant a garden of any kind until end of May, beginning of June. But there are some things that come up in your garden every year that are absolutely amazing, and you don't even need to worry about planting them because they just show up on their own. And I am excited that we are going to be able to play with some of that this year. What am I talking about? Well, good morning, Evelyn. If you read the title on this, and I don't know if you had a chance to, I'm talking about rhubarb. And, you know, the smaller it is, the stronger the taste is. And rhubarb is this magical thing that just shows up in your garden year after year, and you really don't have to do anything to make it show up. It just does. So people can start picking it sometimes even as early as the middle of April. Well, I have started picking mine already, and for the most part, it's used to make sweet desserts. So pies, cakes, tarts, jams, strawberry rhubarb jam is very popular. Rhubarb jam is very popular, but I don't want to make a dessert or a jam. We're going to do something different today. We are going to make rhubarb chutney. And a chutney is just it's kind of like a chunky relish, I guess. Oftentimes, when you make a relish is typically done with only vegetables. So if you look at, pardon me, itchy nose. Now, I've got to tell you, have you got a cup of coffee with you? Because if you do, I hope you're enjoying it as much as I'm enjoying mine with my sugar-free Da Vinci buttered rum syrup in it. Good morning, Mom. Okay, so rhubarb out of the garden. Now, I am just going to give you guys a better view of what we're doing here. Okay. Oh, that camera got bumped. There we go. Okay, now we can see what we're doing. I have been out picking rhubarb in the garden. Now, when you buy rhubarb, when you pick rhubarb, this is what it looked like. Great big huge leaf, or sometimes a smaller leaf, but it has a leaf on it. Now this has all been washed and it's ready to be prepared. The leaves are never used, and the reason they're not used is because they have oxalic acid in them, and oxalic acid is poisonous. So we are just going to put that leaf over there, and we're going to trim the end off of this. And I have a couple other pieces that I haven't got chopped up yet. Now before we chop this up, we're going to start our chutney. And we're going to do this on about a 4 to start with. And we're going to add almost all of the ingredients right in the beginning. So just let me adjust have you noticed that we seem to be adjusting things a lot when I come on? One of these days I'm going to get this all perfected. Okay, so we are going to add 10 grams of minced garlic. Now, garlic is optional, but it just adds another layer of flavor to this. We are putting in 100 grams of organic apple cider vinegar. There we go. And we are putting in, how much? We're putting in, it's 3/4 of a cup. Well, 3/4 of a cup of sugar-free sweetener. Watch your sugar-free sweetener and read the ingredients even on that. So this is, you know what I'm going to say, I'm sure. This is Amson Naturals stevia sweetener. And so we're going to add all of this in here. And with that, we are also going to add 3/4 of a teaspoon of ground ginger. And half a teaspoon of cumin, half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Those are not things that you typically see together, I know, but it's going to be absolutely delicious. Now you can do 1/4 of a teaspoon to half a teaspoon of red chili flakes. Now these are all TSL organic spices, just so you know. I chose half a teaspoon because I like mine a little bit on the spicy side. And then 1/4 teaspoon of cloves. Okay, so we have all of that in there, and we are going to let this come to a boil and boil for a couple of minutes. Now, something that you have to remember if you are using any kind of a sweetener, and anything that you buy that says stevia and it's granular, something for you to remember is that granular sweetener. Here, I can set this out of the way now. I don't need my garden bucket. Anything that is granular when you buy it, as this chutney cools, you're going to get these crunchy, yummy, crystally flakes that show up in there. And that's okay, that's normal. So you didn't do anything wrong. If you're canning this to keep later, don't worry about it because you didn't do anything wrong. Okay, now we're going to let this come to a boil, and we're going to let it boil for a couple of minutes. Now, I have a question for you guys. See who knows the answer to this. Is rhubarb a fruit or a vegetable? I need some guesses. Tell me in the chat, is rhubarb a fruit or a vegetable? Any guesses? Oh, come on, guys. Did you know that when you answer things in the chat and when you click the like button and just get involved when we're doing stuff like this, it really helps out with how many other people get to see this. So if you are not too shy to speak, then by all means, chime in. I want to hear what you think. Okay, Evelyn says it's a vegetable. Well, let's see if anybody else is going to chime in here. And Kay says it's a fruit. Well, you're both right. In 1947, this decision was made by a court in New York State. So botanically, rhubarb is a vegetable because the definition of a fruit just doesn't apply to rhubarb. Oh, we're going to turn this down. Oh my goodness, look at that bubbling and bubbling. Okay, so we're just going to let that boil away there for a couple minutes. Rhubarb is grown in colder climates. So it's grown in Canada, it's grown in Northern Europe, it's grown in Northern China, Russia, any of the northern hemispheres. And it has a fairly short growing season, or it can have. In some places, it only grows for, a month or two, and then it becomes dormant again. And because of the way it grows, and because of the fact that you typically don't just pick it up and eat it, which is part of the definition of a fruit. Good morning, Del. Because you can't just pick it up and eat it like you would an apple or a peach, it doesn't have the sugar content in it. It also doesn't have seeds in it. It is not classed as a fruit botanically, it's a vegetable. However, rhubarb was imported to the States. It has been forever. And when you import something to the States, you have to pay duties and tariffs on it. So the tariff on vegetables was 50%, but the tariff on fruit was only 35%. So CJ Tower and Sons took the U.S. government to court, and they said, look, we know that botanically this is a vegetable. We get that. But nobody uses it as a vegetable. It's not eaten on its own. You can't eat the leaf that's on it. You can't eat, there's no seed in it. It is treated like a fruit. And the U.S. court agreed with CJ Tower and Sons and they told the U.S. government they had to charge duties and tariffs on it as though it was a fruit. And the government said no, because, you know, they can do that. They can argue with it. But what they did do, and it was the courts made them do, was they listed it as, instead of a fruit or a vegetable, it was listed as other. So it's in the same class as sorrel or fennel and rhubarb. So, and rhubarb is actually in the sorrel family. Now, I am going to add, how much am I going to add? 56 grams of red onion. Now, if you can, I don't know, can you see the ice crystals on this? This is from a bag of onions that I got. I wasn't going to be able to use it all, so I chopped it up, put it on parchment paper on a sheet pan, threw it in the freezer, let it freeze, and then tipped it all into a freezer bag. So now, when I need it, I didn't have to spend any time prepping this for today, and I have beautiful fresh red onion. And we're just going to dump that in here. So we have onion and garlic. Now, you know, a lot of people will just not ever have seen onion and garlic with rhubarb. But today, that's what we're doing. Now, this has been boiling for a couple of minutes. We're going to add the rhubarb in here. Now, we are adding 480 grams of rhubarb. And this is going to have to cook down for a few minutes. So what is your favorite thing to use rhubarb for? Do you use rhubarb in savory dishes, or do you just use it in desserts? I'm going to make one more adjustment here. There we go. Now we've got it in the right spot. We'll just tip it down a little bit there. Eventually I get it. Now this is going to take about 10 minutes or so to cook down. I'm just going to turn the heat up a little bit on this induction burner so that we can get this cooking a little bit more quickly, because we don't want to take all day for it. Now, the other thing that I have coming up in my garden, and you are going to want to join me on Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Mountain, because Wednesday morning we are going to do, now I know we've done this before, actually just recently, but we're going to do it again. We are doing hollandaise sauce and asparagus. So you'll want to make sure that you're here with us for that, because it is going to be wonderful. That is something that you can eat when you're doing keto. It's something that you can have all the time. And I have asparagus coming up in my garden. That's another one of those wonderful spring foods. Okay, so Evelyn is saying, my mother always made a rhubarb relish. You will love this chutney. The spices in it just really add everything to it. So I hope you guys had your pen and paper ready, because this is going to be absolutely delicious. Now, this is my take on a recipe that I found that was absolutely not in any way keto, but we can keto anything if we put our mind to it. So what else do you like using recipes in? Tried the hollandaise sauce this morning. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Evelyn. What do you use the hollandaise sauce on? We have so many options. You can use it on eggs. You can use it on vegetables. You can use it on meat. You can use it on anything. So if you're eating a chicken breast, that's a really lean cut of meat. So if you have chicken breast and Brussels sprouts, or chicken breast and asparagus or broccoli, you're not getting any fat in that meal. Hollandaise sauce is a delicious way to add some fat to your meal. And if you make it yourself, and you really, really do need to make it yourself, guys, if you make it yourself, you know exactly what's in it, and you can calculate the grams of fat and carbs that you're getting. So you need to be doing that. So we're going to be looking at things that are maybe not coming out of my garden, but they're going to be coming out of local gardens, and looking at meals that we can have or condiments that we can have with our meals that are keto. I have people ask me all the time, what should I eat? What should I eat? Can you make me a meal plan? Because I don't know what to eat. And the easy answer is you need to do a little bit of research and make sure that what you're eating is low carb. And if it is a processed food that you're buying in a jar or buying in a can or however it is you're buying it that has a bunch of ingredients in it that you can't pronounce, then you shouldn't be eating that, because it is not going to do anything to benefit you in your keto diet. Now look at the way that rhubarb is bubbling away. Okay, let's give this a stir. The last thing we want to do is burn this. Now, rhubarb is one of those things where you can simmer it gently or you can boil it hard, and one way or the other, it's just fine. If you look at how much liquid is in this right now, I only put in a wee bit of apple cider vinegar. There was only 100 grams of apple cider vinegar go in here, and we have a pot that is full of liquid now, and it's going to thicken up as it cools. Now, if it doesn't thicken up enough for your taste, put it back on the burner, add a quarter of a teaspoon of xanthan gum. Mix that xanthan gum in with a little bit of sweetener or salt. Now you'll notice I did not put salt in this, and that's unusual for me. I usually do add salt in things, but this really doesn't need it because the rhubarb is so tart that it gives that pow of flavor without needing the salt to really dress it up. And this is cooking down. I wish you guys could smell this. It is amazing. Okay, so if you're using a chutney or a relish, what do you use it on? What's your favorite thing to use it on? Now, one of my favorite things in the summertime, especially if we're barbecuing, and it's not steak, which is typically my favorite, is hot dogs or smokies. Now, hot dogs and smokies, for the most part, they're not keto. If you're buying them in a grocery store, check the carb count, because they do have in the carb count, but also check the ingredient list and look to see what's in them. If you cannot afford, and I certainly cannot, if you can't afford to be buying the best cuts of grass-fed, grass-finished meats all the time, then you do what you can do. Keto does not have to break your bank. It just doesn't. And you need to do it the way you can do it. So you need to watch for the ingredient list that is going to be closest to perfect keto. And beef or pork on the barbecue is absolutely perfect, and chicken. And this chutney that we're making this morning is going to be absolutely wonderful for either of those. Now look at how this has cooked down. Oh, I should maybe show you. If I'm going to tell you it looks amazing, I should show you, right? Okay, check that out. It is just bubbling and a boiling. Cauldron, boil and bubble. Okay, that is done. Now I want to show you something. If you are using a burner on the stove that is not magnetic induction and it's not gas, when you turn the burner off, the element is still hot and things keep bubbling, but look at how fast this stops. Because with magnetic induction, the heat is there and then it's not, just like a gas stove. So it's amazing. Now we are going to put a little bit of this chutney in this bowl. We are going to cool it. We want this to cool quickly, so set that over there. And, you know, I knew I was going to do this, and yet here I am not being ready again. But it's all good because we still have a little bit of time to hang out together. Okay, so I am just going to set this in an ice bath because that is going to help cool it much more quickly. And we're just going to stir it. Okay. Now, interestingly, when I started looking for recipes for this, several of the recipes that I found said to add red food coloring. It has absolutely no purpose other than to make the color brighter. Do we want to do that when we're on keto? Do we want to add a chemical to our food specifically just to change the color? And I vote for no, not in my world anyway. Now you can see this is thickening up already and it's just started to cool. If you put something in an ice bath and you can move it around a little bit, it will cool even faster because the outside edges get cool more quickly. Okay. I think that's going to be about cool enough. Is that going to be cool enough? Maybe. Just see. Okay, now let's take a taste and see if we've done something good. You think we've done something good? Oh my goodness. You are going to love this. Now, one thing that I want you to remember is that this is a condiment. I could fill a bowl of this and just eat it right out of the bowl. But it really is a condiment, and it's important if you're going to use it on your food that you are using it as a condiment so that you're not getting a whole schwack of extra carbs. Rhubarb is really, really low in carbs, just so you know. There's like 2.7 grams of carbs in 100 grams of rhubarb, so next to nothing. The onion does have some carbs in it, though, and you need to remember that. So when you're making this recipe and you're adjusting it for your family, make sure that you remember not to add more onion unless you have room in your carb budget for that. Honestly, you guys, you definitely are going to want to do this because it is absolutely delicious. And the colder it gets, listen to this awesome English that I'm going to use. The colder it gets, the awesomer it gets. So, have a barbecue tonight. Pull some rhubarb out of your garden. It is not too early. You don't have to let it get big. And make some of this amazing chutney. If you need to stock up on spices, you know how to get hold of me. I hope all of you have an amazing rest of your Sunday. I know I'm going to. And I'm definitely going to be having a second cup of coffee when we get off of here. And I'm going to be heating this up again so that I can put it in some smaller jars. And have it put away so that it's ready when I need it. This is something that is perfect for canning. So do what you do in your kitchen. Make this amazing chutney. It's good fresh or canned, and your family will appreciate it. Even if they don't like rhubarb, I think they're probably going to be happy with this because for so many of us that have started keto, some of the condiments that we really enjoyed, like relish or ketchup, are really not keto friendly. So if we can find a way to take what we like and change it up to fit our keto plan, then our bodies will thank us for it. I hope all of you have an amazing week. I will see you, pardon me, Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Mountain. We're doing hollandaise sauce and asparagus fresh out of my garden. I am so excited. You don't want to miss it. So I will see you then. Do your very best to live your best version of this shining life. I know that's what I'm going to do.